Hello, my name is Scott Parker, and welcome to episode 5 of The Road to the Empire Strikes Back. This would be the rewatch reaction. Now, I didn't plan, actually, for episode 5 to be the review slash rewatch talk, but it is kind of perfect, right? So, anyway, it is May 22nd, 2020, as I record this, and it is 31 days shy of being 40 years to the day in which I saw Empire Strikes Back for the first time here in Houston, Texas. Back then, it was Friday, May 23rd that I saw the movie, and this is the first Friday in 2020 since the anniversary, so I figured what better time to do it than the actual Friday. So I took notes. So this is interesting. I mentioned in the introduction that I was going to watch my VHS copy. Well, it turns out last Sunday at Half Price Books, I found the reissue that actually had the theatrical release. Now, I'm pretty sure that they still messed with a few things, but I'm not going to take the time to figure out which one they are. You in the comments will know what it is. So I just watched Empire Strikes Back for the first time in, I honestly can't remember how long. I purposely postponed the soundtrack episode of this video series because if you're anything like me and you listen to the soundtrack, you can see the movie in your head. And it's been 40 years, so you pretty much know, and I pretty much know, beat for beat what is going to happen and what happens on screen. So I postponed the soundtrack episode. Might be next one. So right now what I have planned is the soundtrack. There's going to be the comic book adaptation and the novelization and the toys. So those are at least 4. I might do the comic book and the novelization in one episode. I don't know, but there's at least be 3 of them coming up to there. And like the writing dork that I have become at age 51, I took notes. So we're going to talk about some of the things that I saw and some of the things that I just wrote down. Just feel free to listen on and see what your thoughts are. But again, I can't remember the last time I saw this film all the way through. I mean, there are certain Star Wars properties that are special, and Empire is one of them. Star Wars is too, the first one. That depends on my mood, but if I'm flipping through channels and it shows up on TBS or TNT or whoever has it, and it just happens to be on TV, I almost don't watch it. Almost 9 times out of 10, I don't start watching, at least Empire and Star Wars, from wherever it starts. I don't know why. I think it's because these 2 movies, Star Wars and Empire, are such time capsules for me that I want to cherish when I do have the time to watch these shows. And I just don't want to watch like 5 minutes of the Bespin scene or, the Hoth scene or something like that. I want to just watch the entire movie. And that's what I did this afternoon. So this is 2020, so it's been 3 years. Well, it's been 6 months since the Rise of Skywalker came out, and it's been 2 years, a little over 2 years since The Last Jedi came out. And the reason I bring that up first is I have 2 notes here, and it says in the first 15 minutes of The Empire Strikes Back, we get to see Force things that we've never seen before up to that time. Now, granted, in Star Wars, what did we hear in Force stuff? We heard disembodied voice and Luke using the Force to shoot the torpedoes in the exhaust port and to anticipate where the little remote is going to shoot at him. That's all we saw with the Force. I think in the movie, I think Ben does the little click to make the stormtroopers look away, and then he escapes out the other side. Very little of the Force. In the first 15 minutes of the second film, we see, 1, the Force being able to move objects like Luke and his lightsaber, and we see the Force ghost of Ben Kenobi for the first time. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, doesn't matter, right? Anyway, I find it fascinating that at least back in 1980, most people were just like, oh, more Force stuff. But in 2017, when Leia does her Force flying through space, everyone had an issue with it. I didn't have an issue with it. In fact, I consider The Last Jedi to be one of the four most original movies of the entire 10 movies I think we're up to now. So I hope that doesn't mean you stop watching my video, because I got a whole lot of stuff to discuss, but it does mean I have my own opinion on The Last Jedi. In fact, what I'll do is I will post my review of The Last Jedi that I wrote back in 2017 in the comments that you can see it. So obviously TLJ review. Okay, so Force stuff in the first 15 minutes. It was really nice. In terms of editing, I have always appreciated this little beat where right after Han goes and shoots the probe droid, you shoot back to the Hoth base, and Leia's talking to him, and the General Riken's there, and there's that wonderful line that not only brings the Empire and Vader into the movie for the first time, but it is the first time you get to hear the Imperial March. So that's that one beat with editing where it says, Han goes, "You can sure bet the Empire knows we're here," and then Riken says, "We better start the evacuation." Downbeat of Imperial March. And then you've got this wonderful scene of like Star Destroyers, which you've seen in the first movie, and then the one Star Destroyer gets a shadow cast over it, and you're like, what in the world can make a shadow on a Star Destroyer? A Super Star Destroyer. One of the best moments of the movie. Love it, love it, love it. Anyway, the next thing I wrote was the meditation chamber, the little thing that Vader sits in. That was the first time I got to see that, and of course it shows up in the toy, which I did own back in the day. So that was kind of neat just to see it. And of course, that was the first time you get to see the Force choke in this movie. You saw a little bit of it in Star Wars, but this is the first time you actually see it to the death. So Force choke was to be the first of 2 Imperial officers that actually get the Force choke. Right. So once the evacuation starts, there's that great scene, which it's when Leia is talking to the pilots and saying, this is what you got to do. 2 transports, two ships to a transport. And I have, again, some of this stuff will be soundtrack music that I will bring up in the movie, because it is, I'm not sure if Empire's my favorite soundtrack. It's one of the first, it might be my favorite soundtrack. When I met John Williams in the 1980s, when he conducted the Houston Symphony Orchestra, and I got to meet him, I told him at the time that Empire was my favorite soundtrack. It probably still is. There's some pieces in Star Wars that are truly take me away. Raiders, The Lost Ark soundtrack, and Last Crusade. Just almost my 4 favorite soundtracks for John Williams of all time. But there's that moment when she's discussing everything, Leia is, and it's just strings playing, and it's the medium to low strings and the high strings playing in the low register, and I know it's busy music. I have a friend of mine who just calls it busy music, and I know that, but it's the tonality of the music. It's building the tension, and that leads to 2 things. One, the Battle of the Snow piece of music is one of my favorites on the soundtrack, because it's got the xylophone and it's got the piano. But seeing the AT-ATs for the first time through the micro binoculars as he zooms in, and you don't know what's coming. And I'm sitting there watching today, 40 years later, and I know what's coming. And I'm still getting my heart's racing, because the rebels in the movie, they don't know what's coming, and then they see what's coming. You've got to admit, it's one of those oh crap moments. I'm not a soldier. I've never been in war, but I think every soldier's got an oh crap moment when he sees what's coming. And you have got to imagine those rebel soldiers seeing those AT-ATs coming. I specifically, as I mentioned here, I watched the theatrical version from 1980, so no CGI cleanup. I've seen the special edition of Empire, and so it's been a long time since I've seen either one of them, so I can't say whether or not the stop motion of the AT-ATs in the theatrical version is improved or fixed up in the SE. I don't know, and I don't kind of care, But again, the AT-ATs and this whole piece of music, the Battle in the Snow, it is just remarkable how good this whole sequence is. And you have to remember, I'm 11 years old. I'm a fifth grader. I'm about to graduate fifth grade, within the next week. So what I've seen in the world is like Star Wars, the first movie, and Buck Rogers, and Battlestar Galactica a little bit, and Batman comic books, and Superman, and that's the main big things. Flash Gordon. I don't think Flash Gordon is opened yet in 1980. Honestly, don't remember what month it opened in 1980. But you got to remember that for an 11-year-old fifth grader, heroes won. That's what heroes did. They win the day. And to see the scene toward the end of the Battle of the Snow, where you've got the walkers in the distance coming forward, and in the foreground you see debris and blown up speeders and retreating soldiers and dead soldiers that get shot by lasers. I mean, that's war. Again, it's movie war, it's Star Wars war, it's fantasy war. But, to an 11-year-old, that's some serious stuff. We're losing. The rebels are losing, and it's just one of those remarkable things. I'll go into it in the detail a little bit later on, but this movie was a major milestone in my life. I'm not going to put a whole bunch of weight into a movie changing my life, but this movie opened my young 11-year-old eyes to some things, and some of those times means heroes don't win. Vader in the rebel base. I mean, it's just one of those badass scenes. You got the snow soldiers coming forward, and Vader just marching through that. Now, you got to admit, once you've seen Rogue One and what Vader does at the end of Rogue One, you kind of want to reimagine the scene in the rebel base with the Millennium Falcon shooting off, and Vader just probably going, and he's like, all right, man, board the ship. And he just holds it there while his men board the ship and capture the rebels, and the movie's over in 20 minutes. But anyway, the thing that always struck me, though, is after Luke takes down the AT-AT and he goes and gets in his X-Wing, the music turns happy. It's like, hey, see you at the rendezvous, and it's kind of like summer camp. And I'm like, dude, there are Imperial soldiers down underneath the ground in the base. Might you want to speed up everything, right? And then when Luke gets into the space, there's like no blockade. I mean, did the ion cannons take out all the extra ships? Who knows? Vader's ship's still there, and it's big up there. But maybe Luke went the other way. They never say. But anyway, when you get to the sequence with the Falcon and the chase, and of course, I guess all the ships are chasing the Falcon, so Luke can escape over, to the left. My nose is itching. Sorry about that. There's that moment where, for the first time, that the Falcon doesn't go to hyperspeed. And, Han doesn't know what to do. And he does that in one moment where he says, that's all right, we can still outmaneuver him. And he takes evasive action, and the ship goes down, and you actually see the camera, whoosh up like this. And you see that shot of the Falcon spinning and the two Star Destroyers coming through in evasive action. And you're just like, that is just some badass piece of cinematography. Always love that. And of course, going through the asteroid field, it's just always cool. Especially, when the Falcon comes through and swoops through the canyon and does the thing. And then come on. Does it get any better than that? It doesn't, because it's Han freaking Solo is what it is. Back to Dagobah. Humor. Star Wars always has humor. And the droids are a major part of that. And so, that one scene after R2 gets dunked in the water, and he's like, Luke's going, go that way, and R2 actually goes, doo, 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 doo. Gotta love that. We get to see Vader's head for the first time, and of course it's mysterious, because this may be the 51-year-old talking, but you're like, hey, how does he breathe when he's not outside his helmet? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Of course, the Emperor and the hologram. First time we get to see that kind of thing, with the big old giant hologram looking down at Vader. And of course, seeing it again, you realize, wait, Vader's bowing to someone. How badass must this Emperor be for Darth freaking Vader to bow to him? It just makes you all the more excited for the next movie. Going all the way through Dagobah, of course, Yoda does his thing. There was a time there where I wondered why. I was younger. This is, 39 years ago. I always wondered why Yoda did what he did when he introduced himself to Yoda. And of course now, as an older adult, I realize he's testing Luke, because Luke always needs to be tested, and because Luke almost always fails. You know when Luke tries to pick up the X-Wing on his own, and there's that reaction from Yoda, where, you know, his eyes widen up, and it's almost like he was surprised, like, holy cow, maybe the son of Anakin Skywalker really can do this. Oh, no, it's, you know, back in the water. But I just love that one moment of Yoda going, holy cow, maybe he can do this stuff. It was great. And of course, immediately following, Luke goes, I can't do it, it's too big. And he says, always with you what cannot be done. And this little segment has got three of the best Yoda statements probably ever made. You know, always with you what cannot be done. You know, there is do or do not, there is no try. I guess I'm getting out of order, right? And you know, that is why you fail. I don't believe it. It's one of those moments you just like, Yoda knows. Yoda freaking always knows, right? Except when Palpatine becomes Sidious and takes over the Senate, and, you know, he didn't know that part, but that's in the future. What I noticed sometimes, even watching these shows for the 1000th time or whatever it is, the part where Luke is levitating, and he does the rock and the thing, and he first sees the visions of Han and Leia. I guess I noticed for the first time in forever that you got a high piccolo playing the love theme at that moment, signifying Han and Leia's in trouble. I thought that was kind of nice to see this. So we're shooting ahead, you know, seeing Bespin for the first time. It's a wonderful moment. You know, all these shows ever since Empire have shown you new worlds and new planets. Empire is so unique because you get the stark whiteness of Hoth, you get the dim grayness of Dagobah, and you get this bright cloud city which seems to always be in perpetual sunset. Have you noticed that? I think it's just a color palette thing because it matches the interior of the carbon chamber. But, you know, the whole moment with Lando and leading all the good guys to the ambush, you know, when Chewie looks behind him and he's got that little soft growling, the moment, again, force things for the first time. Lando pushes the door is open, there's Vader sitting, and he stands. You gotta love the formality of Lord Vader. He stands because he's there. And Han, being the Western badass that he is, I mean, he clears his blaster in seconds and shoots Vader. Vader just sits there and deflects them with his hand. And then boom, the gun's in his hand. It is still thrilling. Just like earlier in the movie, you know, I've seen these things 100 times. I know what's coming. And it's still thrilling. And now, again, it's first time in forever, 51-year-old, it's a shattering moment. Your friend has betrayed you. You're caught. There's Vader. There's Boba Fett. There's stormtroopers in front of him. Stormtroopers behind me. There's nowhere to run. You're trapped. And you can see it on Harrison Ford's face more than you can Carrie Fisher's. He's like, well, I'm sorry too. And you just get that impression that his throat is so dry because he's just scared to death because it's coming and he knows he's in trouble. Han yelling, the torture sequence. I want to say that may be one of the things that they edited out even for the DVD version of the theatrical version. I don't remember, but I seem to remember there being a lot of yelling, and there wasn't too much here. And I remember, again, as an 11-year-old, that's your hero being tortured and screaming because it hurts so bad. You know, so going all the way to the carbon freeze chamber where they actually freeze Han. So again, it's funny to sit there. The things that touch you, the things that get you emotional when you are 51. So seeing the moment, you know, put him in, and then Chewie goes mad, and then Han, you know, Chewie's best friend, he's got to calm him down because he knows that he'll be killed if he doesn't. Chewie will be killed if Han himself doesn't calm him down. So Han Solo at these last moments, it's gonna be funny if I actually get teared up. Han Solo at these moments, he's got to calm his friend. He knows he's out. In fact, as far as he's concerned, he's going to his death. And he He calms his friend. And it's really great to see just like him giving at that last moment. And there's that moment where Han and Leia, they look at each other and they're like, there it is. There's the moment, the last time. And then there's the kiss. And then there's the I love you and I know. And I know all the backstory. It's just a remarkable scene that, Harrison Ford, I think in the book that I'm going to read, The Making of Empire, he fought for those moments. And it's really good. And what I always have liked, and I've noticed this for decades, is the last thing you see for Han Solo, other than the looking up to see, the freezing comment, is the smirk, the little bitty smirk. It's the smirk that goes, well, honey, I wish we had a lot more time than that, or, well, I guess I have no more ways to get out of this, or, just, that's it. He's Han Solo. Emotional. It's funny. 40-year-old movie about Star Wars, and you get emotional about certain things, and that's just the way it is, right? The scene where right after the carbon freezing, and there's that one moment where Vader's face is coming out and the steam comes out, and you got the music and you got these huge timpanis and the steam, and it is a fantastic moment of Vader just being freaking evil, And then, of course, when Luke gets in the chamber, you've got that one of the best scenes in the movie. One of the best scenes in the movie, where I guess Vader can turn off his breathing or whatever, because Luke's in there by himself, and you hear the, and he says, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet." Of course, with James Earl Jones, wonderful, pronunciation. It's just one of those moments, and as a kid, you're like, this is the fight. Luke's not ready. Holy cow, can he hold his own? And of course, he doesn't, because Luke rushes off to there. One of the things on that topic, Yoda says, if you value what Han and Leia fight for, then yes, you will sacrifice them. What did Yoda actually mean? There's probably hundreds of articles talking about what he actually meant. I guess what he means is to sacrifice Han and Leia, let Vampire Vader have them, so Luke can train and become a full-fledged Jedi, and then at some future date, Luke's just going to show up as a Jedi? I don't really get it. Anyway, that is what it is. And, right, so I have some, so after Lando and Leia and Chewie escape, again, pieces of music. It's called the Duel on the soundtrack, and it's that piece of music. Most every movie has it. Star Wars has it when Luke and Leia swing across the chasm. You can hear it in the soundtrack when the moment happens. Here, it's the moment when R2 opens the door. That piece of music where you have the release of the tension. And Chris, R2 comes through like he always comes through. I mean, come on. You know how Vader being a badass in Rogue One is one of those moments that everyone just truly loved. After Luke gets blown out the window and he goes looking for Vader, and he finds him inside that little small control room. And then Vader just comes out and he's just smashing back and forth. And it's all Luke can do just to barely retreat in time. And it's just one of those moments that and I think he must be growling in the mask. I don't know, but it's always one of those just such a massive moment of like Vader just like, screw this, on with the lesson, and we're just going to get down there. As a kid, and even now, there's that moment right before Vader reveals the truth where Luke says, "I'll never join you." He puts anger and force in his voice, and it echoes in the big giant chamber. And I've always loved that he goes, even the smaller voice when he goes, "No, he told me enough. He told me you killed him." Mark Hamill doesn't get enough credit for playing Luke Skywalker, because at that moment, he's defeated, he's wounded, weaponless, he has nothing left, but he's still saying, "I'll never join you. No matter what you do, I will never join you," which is just one of those remarkable moments. And of course, just like Han's smirk right before he gets frozen, right before Luke realizes that he has one option, and the one option, again, is to sacrifice himself. he also gives Vader the smirk, and he falls. And he is peaceful and serene in that moment where he just falls backward. I hate the SE where they put in like falling sounds or whatever, sounds, but I like the quiet, stoic Luke just saying, you can't catch me. You'll never catch me. Of course, in retrospect, we know Vader can just go, Luke, force movement, and then boom, there we are. We're going to the Emperor now. Let's go to the carbon freeze chamber. Because if Kylo Ren can stop a bullet in midair, Vader can just pick up Luke by the Force and walk him to, it's one of those things. But I guess what Vader wants is free will. Or maybe maybe that was the first moment of Anakin Skywalker coming back. I don't know. But Luke's little smile and the falling and the self-sacrifice. Again, it's hard to overstate, as an 11-year-old, you're like, what, your hero wants to kill himself? Wow. It's massive stuff. And of course, the Leia hear me thing was the third new thing, and that you realize that Empire has 3 new things that shows you the Force can do. Bring things to you. I guess bring things to you or throw things at you. That's kind of like two sides of the same coin. The Force Ghost, and then of course communication between Force sensitive people. Again, with the whole Vader father talking throughout space, it's all there. We didn't really have to wait 3 years. We just needed to wait 3 years for the confirmation, and there you go. And I noticed something for maybe the third or fourth time, the first time in a long time, in the Falcon. This is my last note, by the way. In the Falcon, when Lando says punch it, and they're supposed to go to light speed, and of course, nothing happens. I noticed it's really cool. There's Leia and there's Chewie, and they do this thing. They look at each other like, holy cow, can you freaking believe this now? And then almost as one, they turn to Lando like, dude, you're supposed to fix this thing. And of course he's like, hey, well, I thought my people said they were going to do it, and they didn't do it. And then it ends. The Empire Strikes Back. I have no idea how many times I saw this in the theaters back in the day. I saw it first on May 23rd, 1980, at the West Chase Cinema in Houston, Texas, on the corner of Westheimer and Gessner. That theater is no longer there. I saw it multiple times after that in the Alabama theater. It turned into a book stop, and now it's Trader Joe's. But that one had a balcony, and my grandfather, my mom's dad, he would take me. This is Houston, and a lot of times in the summertime, he would take me and watch me with my grandparents would watch me throughout the day, and I must have been a very persuasive young child to say, what do you want to do today? Watch Empire Strikes Back. Okay. He took me every single time. And I remember distinctly my mom going, hey, why do you always take the kid to see Empire? And my grandfather's answer was, well, it's a cool theater is a good place to be on a hot summer day in Houston. But The Empire Strikes Back, that's the rewatch review today. And I guess this is probably the best time to just talk about a little bit. I won't take too much longer. I've touched on it a few times here. The heroes lose in this movie. Han Solo captured and frozen. Luke Skywalker, no hand, no lightsaber, weaponless. The good guys on retreat. The bad guys striking back and being ascendant. It blew my fifth grade mind away that heroes don't always win. And I guess that's always what makes middle chapters of trilogies the best, right? It happens in The Last Jedi. Happens with The Two Towers and Lord of the Rings. It happened in Back to the Future Part 2. How many other episodes? I guess happens in Attack of the Clones. Middle chapters are always the cliffhanger chapter, always the downer chapter. And maybe that's why everyone likes them better. It just has a chance for the heroes to be put on their heels. And my goodness, with Empire Strikes Back, our heroes were on their heels. We had to wait 3 years to find out what happened. It was a long 3 years. Heck, with the sequel trilogy, 2 years was long enough. I know friends were going, I can't wait 2 years. I'm like, buddy, back in the day, we had 3 years. So be happy you have one less. Gosh, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Empire Strikes Back again. It is among my all-time top favorite films of all time. The first two films, for me, bar none, best in the series. Rogue One and Last Jedi are my other two favorites. I like the other movies, give or take, but those are my top four. Ironically, it's funny, three of them are the downer stuff. Maybe that's the 51-year-old me. I don't know. Maybe that's the storyteller me. Anyway, I'm at half an hour now. I want to give you back some time, but I would truly love to hear what you thought about Empire Strikes back in the day as a child, throughout the decades, and again here in 2020 after you saw it again, I hope, like me, for the 40th anniversary. 40 years since this movie. Can you believe it? Time has a way of just slipping on by, doesn't it? In the blink of an eye. But anyway, that wraps up episode number 5 of The Road to the Empire Strikes Back. The road continues in the next few episodes. I'm not going to say which one's next because I kind of don't know what I want to do next. It'll probably be the music, but anyway, I would appreciate you tuning in next time, and I appreciate your time now. Have a good day, and may the Force always be with you, even when the bad guys win.